Democratic Congresswoman Teresa Leger Fernandez joins from New Mexico, joins me now for more. And Congresswoman, thank you first for your time. Listen, we already know that House Democrats were staunchly against this funding bill, almost voting completely unanimously against it. But where do you think this falls in the Senate? Will Senate Democrats block this, or do you think that there is room for some sort of compromise before the deadline?
Hi, Alex. Thanks for the question. I think it's really important to step back and realize, why are we here? So normally, Congress passes appropriations bill. It's basically the funding bill for the government. And a couple of years ago, when Republicans first took the House, we passed a law that said, this is what we're going to do in terms of funding the government for, 24 fiscal year 24 and 25. And that is a really important thing because it then sets out what are the programs that will be funded? What are the congressional priorities? Because remember, Congress is the one who is closest to the people, and it's supposed to pass the government funding bill that the president then carries out. But what President Trump decided to do is say, wait a minute, if we actually don't pass that regular funding bill and you pass this thing called a continuing resolution for the entire year, we will be able to cut whatever programs we want. So it won't be a funding bill, it'll basically be a cutting bill without congressional direction on which programs need to be funded at what level. Musk and Trump will be able to cut programs they don't like. And they've already told us they don't like Veterans Affairs, they don't like Social Security, they don't like EPA, they don't like the Department of Education. So that's why Democrats stood firm against their year-long, 6-month-long bill that I call a cutting bill. And that's why you've seen Senate Democrats also stand firm against it. And I sure hope they stay firm, because I think they understand with their no vote that they are saying no to giving Musk the authority to destroy the federal government.
The White House has almost been kind of gleeful about Democrats' positioning in the Senate, saying that this is a shutdown that would fall on the party's shoulders if they do not get on board. The House took off after passing this continuing resolution. Do you see it the same way? I mean, is this a precarious place for Democrats in Congress right now?
Listen, Republicans control the Senate, the House, and the White House. It is their job to put forward a funding program that is bipartisan. And if they don't pass a true appropriations bill, it's on them. Because they're in control, and their failure to do what every other House and Senate has done in the past, which is pass a funding bill. This would be the first time in history where we don't have a funding bill. And so it's on them because they are refusing to put forward a bipartisan agreement, which is what funding bills are supposed to be. They're required to be bipartisan so that you can get the votes in the House and the Senate. So them saying, we're taking all the cards, we're telling you you take this or leave it, or we'll shut down the government. It is on Republicans who are shutting down the government if they don't put forward a bipartisan agreement.
Well, and also, Congresswoman.
I think we need to remember why. They want to shut down the government. They want to do this so they can get every penny they want from things like nutrition programs for kids, Social Security, veterans, the education programs we were just hearing about earlier, so they can give tax breaks to the wealthy. We always need to remember, why are they doing this?
Well, and it's not lost on me. You are the chair of the Democratic Women's Caucus, and so I wanted to ask, with some of these cuts, obviously you've been talking to constituents, but how have they been impacting women in the federal government specifically?
They've been disastrous for women, right? So they cut research for women's health. education funding is really hard on women because we rely on the early childhood education programs so that we can take our children to work, so that, I mean, to school, so that we can then go work. Some of these funds that they want to cut at Department of Education would be there. The Medicaid funding that they want to cut, that falls disproportionately on women because 40% of the pregnancies in the country are funded by Medicaid, which they want to cut. So you go over and over throughout the programs, and women are especially hard hit. And that's why it's really angers me so much, because women just can't afford Trump's presidency. We can't afford his tariffs. We can't afford his cuts to Medicaid, his cuts to education, his cuts to Social Security. We need to remember that a majority of the people on Social Security are women. So it is very hard on women right now with the Trump administration and what they're doing.
Congresswoman Teresa Leger Fernandez, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Alex.